Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode. This episode is on key takeaways that I got from my weekend at the Abraham Hicks workshop about a week ago. So let's dive right into it. So, my first key takeaway was that the first day was fully immersed in relationships. It was all about romantic relationships, and I felt myself getting a little bit annoyed, a little bit frustrated, because every freaking question was about relationships, and I was like, my relationships are perfect. I want to focus on different stuff. So that was interesting because it made me realize that for most people, that part is the most difficult part to grasp in their lives. A lot of people can make money at some point and they really know how to do that. And what I realized is that money, it doesn't matter if it's a euro or a dollar, or if it's a dollar from that bank or from that bank. It doesn't matter. Each dollar, each euro, each currency, if it's crypto, it doesn't matter because it's all good if you earn it. If we're not talking about blood money, that's a different story because there's a different intention behind it. But otherwise, every type of money, if people pay with it, it's fine. And on the other hand, if you want to find your perfect partner in life, for a guy who is looking for a woman, that every woman is good for him, and that is a match. So that was one of the key takeaways, that in my frustration I found myself also laughing about it. Like, I'm getting frustrated because of this. I was like, okay, let's do a question on. And I heard some other guys had the same thing. They were like, okay, let's do some questions about money this time, or about health or whatever, but just something different about self confidence, self love, or it really doesn't matter. But everything was about freaking romantic relationships. So at some point when somebody started, they started off a little bit left field, and then they ended up at, so I have a question about this relationship. I'm like, okay, there's something here. And I felt so incredibly grateful that that is an area in my life that I have already tackled. It's not that it's done, because you are always working on your relationship, you're always communicating, and you're always working on it. I don't see it as work because I love doing it and I love growing, and each week you encounter new situations and new feelings, new conversations. So I am really happy where I am at now. So that was my key takeaway number one, that I have this perfect relationship, and actually everything after that feels just way simpler than finding your perfect mate. All right, so that was one thing. It made me laugh that I went into the frustration during this, because a lot of times you think, yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I think am getting a hang of the whole law of attraction. I'm getting a handle on everything in life and how to use it, and then you stumble upon these things where you go into frustration. And lately it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So when I sometimes feel like a sliver of frustration, I get out of it immediately, or I say it. And in my upbringing, I was actually used to going through it. So if you get frustrated, we don't care. We want you to do this, so take care of it. It was always in school. If you don't like, if you, it's a Dutch sentence, so it's going to be butchered if I put it in English. But it basically says, if you don't feel like it, make yourself feel like it. Well, it's actually not that bad. But make yourself feel like it, that you want to do it. And it's so weird, because if you don't feel like it, why the F would you do it? Why would you do it? It's not aligned with you, so why would you do it? So right now I'm really feeling, if something aligns with me, I do it, and if it doesn't, I don't do it. And in some situations I catch myself doing it, against my will, so to say. So I do it against my will, and then I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then it's kind of like my blind spot, but it's yeah, a lot more light is being shined upon it. So now I'm seeing it, and now it's going better and better. And a relationship, and also here in living in a community, you have a lot of mirrors around you, and that helps because you see what other people are doing, you see what is annoying to you, you see what you really like, you see what brings you joy, and yeah, those are things you can immediately work on if you want to. So that was not really a key takeaway, but it was fun that it happened at an event where Abraham was constantly telling everyone, focus, point at what you want instead of pointing what you don't want. And during this, I was really like this, and then during this conversation I was going like this, and when I went like this, I caught myself, I was laughing like, okay, I'm screwing it up in a session of Abraham Hicks right now. So it made me laugh, was a pattern interrupt, and after that I actually enjoyed it. And the next day, because it was a 2-day workshop, the next day it started with relationships as well, and almost the entire day was about relationships as well. But what I did is I really saw every situation that they were talking about, and I was translating it in my head to a situation that I wanted to use it for. And I saw, okay, it's just general things you need to do, and it really doesn't matter that they're talking about relationships right now. That's just the flavor, but you can give it any flavor you want. That was a key takeaway 2. It doesn't matter what the topic is. You can always reverse engineer it and use it for your own topics. Another thing was, and it actually struck me when I got back home, and I was, and it's with the other things as well. I was just writing stuff down after we had the whole session, so I made kind of a summary of the entire day, and then things fall into place. So that's a good way of doing it, and which works for me. After day 2, I got back home and I started writing, and like, okay, so day 1, I actually had a question. I didn't ask it, I didn't raise my hand, because I don't know, when I was there, every question seemed too small, and every 5 minutes, well, that's exaggerated, but every 15 minutes I had a different question in my head, and they all got answered, not directly, but mostly indirectly. So I had a question about how can I manifest more quickly. So I thought it was an interesting one, and in hindsight, I thought, why didn't I just ask it? So I decided I'm going back there in my mind, and I'm gonna sit in the hot seat. I'm gonna raise my hand. I'm gonna get cold. I'm gonna sit in the hot seat, and I'm going to ask this question and see what happens. So I visualized the whole thing, and I've been channeling a lot. So Abraham is obviously channeled as well. So within my own visualization, I was channeling Abraham, how I would imagine that Abraham would speak. But with one big difference: during this workshop, Abraham was not letting anyone finish their sentences, and anytime they were trying to think of things, like when there was a little bit of a silence, Abraham would just go straight through it and over it, and it was really, it didn't feel good to me the way that was happening, like a kind of like a bulldozer going over the person. And as the audience, it is fun to watch, but I was empathizing with the people in the chair. Like, oh, I would not like that if I was in that chair. It doesn't feel safe to me, because you're gathering your thoughts after you get a lot of information, and then she asks you something and you want to answer, but you think for 3 seconds or 2 seconds. 3 seconds is long. She did not leave that space. If it took too long, she would take over, and it felt weird. Yeah, it just felt weird to me. So in my own visualization, Abraham was very patient with me. I could talk and talk and think and talk, and it was so nice. So I asked this question, and I was actually talking to Abraham. She gave me some space. She was actually holding space for me, so it was actually the complete opposite. And I was talking and talking about day one and how I felt about it, and that everybody, it was the pace of the conversations was so slow because Abraham kept hammering these people. That's how I saw it. And they were in the hot seat, so if you're there in front of 2,000 people, I can imagine that your mind goes a little bit blank because you're overwhelmed by the whole situation. And then you had the constant hammering, and I didn't really like that because they couldn't, like I said, gather their thoughts and really come up with some good examples of what they wanted. And it felt so slow because they didn't have time to answer her, and she went on her own way, and then she got back, and it just didn't work, and the synergy wasn't really there, which was also part of the frustration that I was just talking about, because everything was so slow. And my question is about, well, like I just said, how can I manifest more quickly? So here's the epiphany. And Abraham didn't even need to answer me, because in my visualization, I was talking like this, and I was talking about quick and slow. And at some point when I said it was so slow, and it hit me, this whole entire day has been shown to me how it's been working in my life and why things are being so slow. So it was a perfect example that day, and also including the frustration, because like the entire day was kind of with a magnifying glass, like this is what you are doing in your life, and this is also why it is not working for you. Because in life you also get hammered, things happen and you go with that. You are pointing in the right direction and in the wrong direction. Things feel really slow and you want it to happen faster, so you're actually more focused upon why it isn't happening yet, instead of having faith that it will happen. So for me, this was such an epiphany that I was sitting and doing on my couch, doing this kind of visualization while speaking out loud, so kind of like channeling visualization sort of situation. And I was like, I felt it really, like, okay, Abraham, I got the message, I understand it now. And to me, I'm not sure if Abraham works like this all the time, like interrupting people like that. I've seen a lot of videos, but I just started watching her again, and it's been like a couple of years where I watched a lot. So I'm not sure if it's like this all the time, but when I saw it in hindsight, it was such an epiphany. That was like, this is it. This whole day was orchestrated for me to show me how this works in my life and how I can change it in my life. So there were also examples of that, and yeah, that was actually really good. So what she talked about, so this was kind of like key takeaway number 3, and then the key takeaway number 4 is to go into every situation. So for example, if you want to get into a relationship, let's take relationships because that's what I'm all about now. You want to get into a new relationship, you want to feel that energy of when you are there, that frequency. And here is how you can do it. You want to get the ball rolling so that you can really get into the feeling place of feeling good instead of feeling the lack of that situation. So let's say you have been single for a couple of years now, and you get back home and you know, okay, I'm gonna spend the night alone and I don't want to be alone. I want to be together with someone. So you're focusing on you want to be together, but it stems from I don't want to be alone. So the frequency of your words are actually of you don't want to be alone, but actually you want to be together with someone. So how do you get from this feeling to that feeling? Well, the words will stay pretty much the same, but it's just like it's the energy behind it. And that's where some exercises came into play. So, for example, you get home and you see your partner sitting on the couch, and she or him or it or them or they will greet you. They greet you when you come home. You go to the couch, you give them a kiss, and you give them a hug. You sit down to them. You talk about your day. You can really express, and you can finally share what you've done at work, what you were really proud of, or some things that happened. You're having a dinner together, and it's so nice. You can't wait to get in bed with each other to just cuddle and feel loved and feel amazing in each other's arms and just fall asleep. So this is really specific, right? This specificity of this really gets the ball rolling of focusing on the positive things instead of the negative things. So that was one of the things that you can also use, because just saying the words, that's not good enough, because even in the audience, and somebody would be asking a question, you could really hear the difference between things that were congruent and that were not congruent with what they felt. Because they would say A and you would hear B when you felt what they had behind it. And that was really eye-opening. It's not new information because I've read this a lot of times and I know this already, but because it was made so tangible and because it was so freaking slow, I got more processing time, and that was really amazing. So that was key takeaway number 4. I don't really think I have a 5, although I do have a 5. So doing things from a position of power, and she did not use these words. Like Bashar would say it, being your true authentic self. Also when making choices, so this was also in relationships, of course. This was a question about that people didn't want to change because their partner wanted them to change, and the partner would keep on wanting to have things different. So if you're doing A and they want you to do B, but B is not who you are because A is who you are. But because there is some kind of looking at in two directions, and your frequency isn't as, because you're not stable, you're not doing it from your own sense of power, there's a hesitation in your vibration, and you feel that as well. Let's say you want to eat lasagna, but your partner wants to eat pasta, and you say, you cave because she wants that, and you cave because she wants it. It doesn't feel good. And then she gets angry and wants you to just pick what you want to pick and stand your ground, because that's how you feel, so that you're not dimming your own light for somebody else. So that's probably the best way to describe it. Shine your light also on the things that you want, even if others want different things. So it's basically be your true authentic self. And then you are unwavering. That unwavering part of you, it makes you a sexy partner for the other as well. While when you are wavering, you are not in alignment with yourself, and you are not as sexy for the other person, and they will want to change you, and they will say things that have nothing to do with that subject, and they will just say random things they want but they don't actually want, because they want you to be you. And if they don't want you to be you, that's possible as well, but then they are in love with a part of you that you really aren't, and then you have given them probably the wrong idea about who you are, and then you have always kind of shown a version of you that you thought they wanted to see, instead of showing a version that you actually are. Alright, so those are my 5 key takeaways from Abraham Hicks. It was in Amsterdam the 15th and 16th of June 2024. If there was anything of value in this, please like, comment. Comment if you were there, actually. I'd love to see some comments, and I'd also like to see what your key takeaways were in this workshop. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Much love. Bye bye.